Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Tuesday, June 30th. CJ Carr, Notre Dame's quarterback, just showed out at this Manning Passing Academy over the last weekend. This is something that Riley Leonard did a few years ago, or a couple years ago, and he did really well at that camp. Rave reviews from CJ Carr. Todd McShay said he was unquestionably not even close to the camp MVP. And it sounded like that's more of a cerebral thing. We'll get into that, Jamie, and how we talked about that. Albert Simien committed to Notre Dame last week. 5-star out of Lake Charles, Louisiana. Took him from LSU, took him from Texas A&M. So that's huge for Notre Dame's recruiting class. And then we're going to talk about some updates from Matt Freeman over on the Irish Sports Daily Message Board. It's going to be a very fun show today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you hear, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know whatever it is. We are going live. As always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang. You've seen ESQ and all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches, from All-Americans to All-Pros, associates to CEOs. You're in great hands with ESQ's custom clothing. Whether you're looking for the perfect fitting suit, a standout sport coat, or a perfect tuxedo for weddings and galas, ESQ's master tailors blend traditional hand stitching in each garment with Italy and England's best fabrics. Check out Ge's amazing work at esqclothing.com. Book an appointment to upgrade your wardrobe today. Mention ISD, you get 10% off your entire purchase. That's esqclothing.com. Jamie, I don't know if you noticed, but we were very close to a Holland versus Canada matchup in the World Cup.
We were.
And it was going to be a thing. For people who don't know, my father was born in Holland, so I am Dutch. They really hurt my feelings yesterday, and I was not in a good mood about it. My son was crying. He was crying, Jamie. They made the boy cry. And I'm going to tell you what. It was a disgraceful performance. I'm so upset. Lined up, they played in a way that is just trying to get to – they tried to get to PKs, and then they got to PKs, and it, obviously they lost. You can't hit a PK. We're kicking it over. Urian Timber's kicking it like 3 feet wide. He's a professional soccer player. This is unbecoming. I'm very upset about that. But congratulations to the Canadian team. They advanced. I think you beat South Africa, if I recall correctly. So you'll be facing off with Morocco. Morocco's good. I will say that they're a very good team. So good luck to Canadians. LeBron James is leaving the Lakers. The news this morning is just that everything's in shambles here. But I've been better.
LeBron though.
I mean, yeah. Like, look at the guys. He's drama, man. But speaking of drama, speaking of LeBron, I'm like 85% certain when we were walking around New York last week on vacation. I'm almost certain I walked by Rich Paul. And I should have asked him, like, hey,
was he with Adele?
He was not, but he was looking at like shoes. And he was, I can't remember exactly where we were. We were on like the West Side somewhere. But I was like, I think that's Rich Paul. And there were like enough people around him, not like, like onlookers or anything, but just like kind of entourage-y type stuff. I could be totally wrong. It just looked like him, but anyway, that's the deal. But speaking of like star-studded, Jamie, let's talk about the CJ Carr performance at the Manning Passing Academy. Todd McShay was thrilled. He was delighted with the performance. I think there was a lot of talk about him from a cerebral standpoint, about how he was the alpha dog. He was able to process everything very quickly, carried himself in a way that was like he was kind of the top guy. This isn't any big surprise in terms of us, and we know what he's like, but it's notable. It's notable when it's on that kind of stage, because all the top quarterbacks are there, and it's one of those things like you want to show out in front of
imagining yourself against everybody else.
Yeah. So what did you take from that, Jamie?
I mean, I don't think you should, because you could go back to previous years and look at like there's just a lot of, in terms of camps and guys showing up to like the Manning Passing Academy or the Elite 11. Who was MVP of the Elite 11 back in the day? Like, I think there's a lot that it's like, it can be like overblown in a lot of ways, right? Like, noted Elite 11 MVP, Cade Klubnik, says below. I mean, there's been great guys too, right? But there's also been guys who just, hey, they didn't have it. So it's like, you can overrate something in a camp. So a guy showing up as a counselor too. But I think it's the stuff that McShay was saying, and I don't know if you listened to the whole podcast or just saw clips or whatever, but I listened to like more of what he was saying, and some of the specifics about how like he talked to other people and wasn't his eyes that were seeing it, right? Like it was like he talked to other people and it was like consensus. Everybody said, like, oh yeah, CJ Carr is the most impressive guy here. So that is something when you're surrounded by all quarterbacks, guys who played in the NFL for years and years, and just coached it and all that too. There's so many of those people around, and someone says, "Yeah, like this guy stood out as the guy." It is a big deal. Like it is something. And I think too, like I don't know if you saw like any of those like pictures where he's sitting beside, but like Arch Manning is a big kid.
Yes,
looks like CJ Carr has really, like, especially in the last couple of years, you can see he's really added a lot of weight, like good weight, and he's put together now. He looks, bigger than Riley Leonard, and Riley Leonard wasn't a small guy, right? So, I think it's not surprising based on kind of like the spring he had, the kind of first season he had, and I think there was just a lot there to suggest like, man, he's going to take off and all these kind of things there. And I think there's been a lot of people like underplaying it nationally. And I would say too, because he didn't get the spotlight he only had those first couple games where everybody was kind of tuned in.
Yeah.
And then there was the USC game and he didn't play well. Right. Yeah. So that's kind of, if you kind of look at that, sample there, you'd say, yeah, he looks good. And you could look at like, his general stats too. And they don't blow you away or anything too, because of how things were spread out in the offense. But man, he was just really, really good. And there were so many little things that he did just which fit with the cerebral part of it, right? Where he, him like checking the right play in the right situation, his success on third downs and all these kind of things, right? And I just think when someone's doing that at that level and at that level right away, that's always a good sign of like, hey, where can this thing go from here? And I don't know. I think it is one of those things because there are like, NFL people that are around that camp, and it does get kind of talked about. And you've seen, I mean, I know that Dan Orlovsky has said like, oh, CJ Carr was his number one guy.
Yeah.
Right? He has said that. And then now McShay is obviously, praising him and stuff too. But I see a lot of, lists where CJ Carr's kind of further down. He's like in the second or even third tier for considering, where the top prospects at quarterback are. And I think he's kind of proven that he deserves to be in that top tier. And I mean, where you rank him, whatever, like, I think there's a lot of other things that go into it, but he's, I think, up there with, the top guys and the top prospects in next year's NFL draft.
Yeah. Check your audio real quick. You sound like you might be on the wrong setting or something like that. But anyway, it doesn't sound bad. It's just different.
It was, sorry. I don't know, for some reason it does this.
Yeah. It's all good. So I think, on the point you just made about how Notre Dame, like his numbers and how Notre Dame spreads the ball around, there was Parker Flammang put up a graphic, I think it was a couple days ago, where it showed like Notre Dame spread the ball around a lot. Like they don't ride kind of one or two stars, like they're moving the ball around. And so like we kind of know that, right? Like no one had big numbers. but that hurts someone like Carr because people like to see, he threw for 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns or whatever it is. And that wasn't the nature of Notre Dame's offense last year. It'll be interesting to see if that's still the case. Or if they kind of focus in on, one or two guys and people can accumulate numbers that way. And it's interesting that you bring up the point about like, he's not really thought of in that way. Like, so maybe 30 minutes ago before we started recording, it came up on Walter Camp. Leonard Moore and Anthony Knapp were named first team preseason All-Americans. And KVA was second team. And it's notable to me that they recognized Anthony Knapp. So that's interesting on their part. But also, I don't know that I've seen CJ Carr make a list like that. I haven't noted I haven't
seen him named in.
Yeah, you would see, you would notice it if it came up, right? Like that, they would be made a big deal by like their social media and stuff, and it hasn't been. And part of this is I wanted to ask you, because I don't think we've talked about him nationally and where we think he is nationally, because I think people would. I mean, I haven't looked at the list, but I assume someone like Dante Moore is going to be on it. Like Arch is going to be on it. Julian Sayin, if he's making those lists, right? And so these are kind of the top returning quarterbacks. And I wonder how you feel about Carr vis-a-vis like some of those top guys nationally. I don't know where, like, because we're kind of in our little bubble here. I know how I feel about Carr, but I don't know how I'd feel about like Dante Moore if I covered Oregon or, Arch. Like, where are you at on Arch? Actually, let's kind of have that conversation, because he did come on at the end of last year, but I went back and looked, and it's like he didn't do it against anyone who was good and like had a good defense. Like against Georgia, he was not good at all. And then he had a couple of good games, but like one of them was against Arkansas. Like everyone lit up Arkansas. So it's just, I don't know where I really feel Arch is. And I think people have assumed like, oh, well, they beat Michigan in that bowl game, so like he's kind of ascended.
I mean, those bowl games mean nothing now.
Exactly.
So many guys are opted out. It's like not the real team.
Right.
It's like one of those things too. Like it's a nice story when Jordan Faison has gets the Sun Bowl MVP or whatever. I think he won. He was the one Sun Bowl MVP, right?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So he has that great day, but and it was a little bit of an indication of like, yeah, he's a really good player. But how about Steve Angeli lighting it up and then nothing? Like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't mean anything, right? Like it's just there's a whole bunch of that stuff, right? So, or if you look at that day, Jadarian Price had way better numbers than Jeremiah Love. Well, he wasn't like he was the starter the next year, right? Like, so there's a lot of that. So I think the bowl games are kind of useless in that way. I think one of the things though with okay, this is how I feel about Arch. I think people view him too harshly, his critics view him too harshly, because they compare him to his uncles who were number one picks, and forget about his granddad, but like his uncles who were number one picks, and they were pure pocket passers. Like those guys were big, tall guys, strong arm guys who, smart, hit through the pocket. Arch is not that. At least he has not shown that at all. But what Arch is like a way better athlete than any of them. And his like greatest asset is that can really run. And he's like, I think I saw where he had like his like EPA as a scrambler was like right up there with like any other quarterback in the country. Like he's someone that just he's a very good athlete. He knows like when to move the sticks, with his legs and take advantage of it. I think that's like one of the things, if you look at say like, he threw for, less than 50% of his passes against A&M. Well, he also rushed for, 50 something yards and a touchdown. Right. And those were like huge plays in it, right? So his QBR was actually like high in the game because of like what he could do.
Yeah, like he was like 14 to 31 passing.
Yeah. And I think too, there's stuff there where, I think he obviously needs to level up as a passer. Like he absolutely does. And I do think that there's a lot of projection with him, like being like, well, he's the number one pick. But I think too, like a lot of that, it comes with like the family and that, like just the history there and all that. And they're just kind of expecting it. And also too, like as much pressure as there is on like CJ Carr, he's like, Lloyd Carr's grandson, quarterback at Notre Dame, got in a position battle. We're trying to win the thing, and they're trying to make the cultural playoff and all that. And there's a ton of pressure on Carr. I would say, as much as anyone in the country at quarterback, other than Arch Manning, right? At Texas with the family and all that stuff too. So I think there's like probably a little bit of like, he's kind of, the spotlight is different for him than a lot of other people. So, I mean, to me, I wouldn't put, if I'm just basing it just based on a college quarterback, Arch is in the next tier for me. I don't think he's in that tier with Carr and Julian Sand and others, right? Like I would say Arch is in that next tier because he could level up. And I do think there was enough there at the end of the season to suggest like, man, if he does level up and then he has this, what he offers as a runner, I mean, that's big. That's really big, right? And Sam K said too, he's a lot more like Riley Leonard, right? What that's really kind of like more of a comp for him in terms of just his overall impact and what he can do. But I think too, the upside is there because for him to be a better passer than Leonard was, right? So that's part of it as well. So, yeah. And like Dante Moore, I mean, I can't say I only watched like 3 games
right,
for last year, right?
Yeah.
And like one of them was the Iowa game. They're playing on the road. He did not play well in that game. No one plays, quarterbacks play traditionally terrible.
It was all like the weather was not good.
The weather was not good.
Very tough day.
Yeah. So, you got to kind of take that with a grain of salt and stuff. And I don't think he played, he didn't play great in the playoff or anything like that. Like definitely not, like Chambliss, like Trinidad Chambliss, his stock just rose up and up as you went along because you saw what he did in the playoff. And to me, he is, I don't know where he's going to be viewed as an NFL prospect, but you'd probably take Trinidad Chambliss. He's got to be in your top 3 of like quarterbacks that you'd want to have on. If you're just starting a team, you're saying we want to win a national championship. Be tough not to pick Trinidad Chambliss just for this year.
Isn't there a bunch of like Johnny Manziel to him?
I think there's a lot of it, but I would say too, he's like less erratic than him
for sure. But like it's just the like he's just outside the like when the play breaks down, like he can really like I think he's good from inside the pocket too. And like Johnny Manziel was at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Because we think of him as like the character who flamed out in the NFL, right? But like in college, I mean, he was electric. I mean, the types of throws.
He's also the guy that beat Alabama when they were Alabama. Like,
yeah. And gave him like 49 points.
Yeah. I mean, he was an incredible college football player. And so I think too, like that's where you would put him. Like Chambliss could win the Heisman this year. Like that is, he has that kind of potential. But I would say if I was just going to list like who I think would be like tier 1 guys this year, I would say Carr, Chambliss, in no order, right? But like Carr, Chambliss, Sayin. Even though I know he gets a lot of the benefit, it's like, well, he's throwing to Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and all that. Yeah, he still was really good. And also their O-line wasn't good. So he didn't have, if he had like Will Howard's O-line, he would have probably been even better, right? And then honestly, I would probably put Moore up there because I think Moore's good is like right there. And he is above, to me, he's better than Arch. Like he is clearly better than Arch right now. It might not be in the end, but and then after that, like because here's a guy that I always see in a lot of things because he's also got more years to his name is Darian Mensah. Is like I see him, and I think Darian Mensah is a very good quarterback, right? But I would put him like in that tier below, and it'd be like him and Arch, and I would say Gunnar Stockton is probably there too, because Gunnar Stockton is also a guy that like, man, I think you'd want this guy as your quarterback. He's like a winner, and he's all heart, and he's a great he's a great college quarterback and had a really really fantastic season. But I also think like there's things with his game. I don't know if he's ever going to advance as a passer. He just might be like this certain type of guy. In a sense, a little bit like Riley Leonard too, even though his style is different, but in that way too. And then there's just like a bunch of other guys where you would say like, well, is Barrett Bachmeier because he had that, great freshman season when he, just kind of came in. It's like, I mean, he could be like rising up there. I don't think like I know that CJ Bailey was named as like a guy who looked really impressive, and I frankly thought he was really good for NC State last year, but just doesn't have good enough talent around him. He's gonna have like monster games, but he's also gonna have a bunch of bad games too because his O-line's gonna get their butt kicked and all of that, right? And even though you hear about Marcel Reed, oh, he's really like matured and all that stuff, I'm like, show me his good passer, like. And John Mateer, I don't care if the guy's, cut up and whatever too. He stunk last year. Okay, he hurt his thumb. He wasn't throwing it great before he hurt his thumb. Like, I don't know. So he's very much a prove it guy. I mean, he was, I would say he was bad. Like, I don't even think he was very good at all. So, I mean, Damon Williams is certainly another guy from Washington who, like, there's a reason why LSU was going to try to pay a whole bunch of money, and he's a really exciting player too. Devin Dampier from Utah, another guy who's really like exciting dual threat guy. And I would say those are like kind of the top group, and there's probably going to be other guys like Keelan Russell from Alabama, who was like a 5-star kid who's gonna he's gonna be Alabama guys this year. He might be one of those guys who just he's Bryce Young, and he all of a sudden just rises up. So there's going to be those guys too, who were like Carr and Sayin last year. There's going to be those guys as well. But I just don't see too many scenarios where Carr still isn't in that top group. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things where I could see fluctuation with guys, but I would say the people that I feel most safe are always going to be like out of the top guys there would be Carr, Sayin, and Chambliss.
And I think there's going to be like a level up numbers wise for Carr this year. It just makes sense, that the offense will be built around him in a way that it wasn't last year, which is understandable to everybody. And I think part of the reason these guys really like Carr, especially because the people, because I think about Arch, right? All the stuff that he's like really makes him like a good college quarterback don't really make you a good pro quarterback. Like I think with Carr, it's like everything about him is like that's a pro. Like he's gonna be a good pro. Like just the way that his like mechanics are really good. Like the way that McShay was talking about him from mechanics wise was like one of these like really good golfers where it's like, man, like that's the swing, like that's what it looks like. And I think with Carr, the way that he throws the ball and his mechanics and everything, like they see him and they think that's what it looks like. And then he carries himself like a pro. I mean, he always has. I mean, people have talked about that forever. It's just like he has that aura about him, and it means a lot to him. And I think that also like that gets those guys, those scouts and everything, that gets them super fired up because I think for them it's easier to project. Like those are the traits that you want in a good pro quarterback.
Yeah.
And plus he's also very good, right? Like the accuracy piece, like they all kept talking about it. Like wherever the ball needed to be, it was there on time, and it looked exactly how it's supposed to. So obviously great news from Notre Dame.
And someone too that I know a lot of people that haven't seen him thrown in person, that when you see him throw in person, it's different.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, man, this is how it's supposed to look. Like, there's just some guys, the ball just comes out cleaner. Like, the ball comes out cleaner. I wouldn't say he's got he doesn't got a rocket launcher, but he's definitely got more arm than I think you would think if you just watched it on TV or whatever, right? Like, and by the way, I just was looking up while you were talking to see who was the first team Walter Camp. Arch Manning. Like, come on.
What? So strange. Like, I don't. It's so weird.
But also too that and not to say that Anthony Knapp, because I think Anthony Knapp very well could be an All-American this year. Like, I we've said it throughout the offseason. Like,
right, yeah,
that's on the table for him. How many people that voted for that Walter Camp thing know that Anthony Knapp even moved inside the guard?
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna guess a very tiny percentage. I don't think people do a lot of research with this stuff. I don't think they do it because they see that Arch Manning is the projected number 1 pick or whatever, and they're like, for even Arch to be the first team over, like, and forget about Carr, but just like Mensa should be above him. Like, you could name 10 guys who should be above him just based on what they did last year and how they would project this year. It really makes no sense. Not to say that he couldn't be the number 1 pick or whatever, but just to say that he is like, well, he's going to be the preseason All-American. No, like, no, not even close.
Yeah. Chris Shiver's asking, do you think some of the reason he isn't as recognized is that they lost their 2 biggest games last year? I think in a way, part of it, because that meant they couldn't be in the playoffs. Like, if he showed out in the playoffs, people would be obviously very, very excited about him. I think the other part too is he didn't have like 4 consecutive games where he threw for 350 and 4 touchdowns. Like, it just wasn't the nature of Notre Dame's offense. I do think it hurt him that he didn't play well against USC. I mean, as a matter of fact, but I think something like the passing academy that could get the hype train rolling a little bit, where it's like all the scouts were there, and they were all watching and they all pay attention. And when the Mannings start whispering about you, like, that just carries weight in the football world, especially at the quarterback position. So that's going to be interesting to track. And obviously Notre Dame's going to be starting camp up in about a month. So that's going to be very cool.
One other thing to just think about too, with the numbers and all that too, you got to remember that they're very conscious of when it's somebody's like award season year.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things too is like CJ Carr, obviously, like, they're showcasing him and he's the QB1 and all that, but it's different when Jeremiah Love, it's like, well, he's got to win the Doak Walker and he could win the Heisman and he should be this amount of pick. And even Jadarian Price to be like this, he's got to get some of this too. I mean, they scored 29 rushing touchdowns combined, those two. Like, whoever Notre Dame's top 2 backs are this year, it's not going to be 29 combined rushing touchdowns. And it's not that, and even they could be as good. I don't think they will be, but just say they are as good. They're just not going to get those opportunities because they're going to do more to be like, well, we want to get CJ this and that. Like, that happens in college football more than people want to admit. Like, there's a lot of that.
Albert Simien commits to Notre Dame. He did it last week. Obviously it's huge for their offensive line. Maybe, like, we were talking about it in the lead up to the announcement on, I think it was Thursday. It might be the best offensive line class they've signed on paper. So far, obviously they need to play and we can have those discussions, but you go back to the Michael McGlinchey group in 2013 from a ranking standpoint. You got 2 5-stars. You've got Jordan Halter, who we're all very excited about. So they got 3 in the top 100. Like I said, 2 5-stars. And so, look, it's exactly what Notre Dame wants to do on the offensive line, recruit that position very well. So credit to, Joe Rudolph and all that staff and getting him on. Credit to Christian, man. He really had the pulse of like where Simien was at and the type of person he was, in the sense that when it was Leighton Von Brandt and there was, it looked like he was going to commit to Notre Dame and that was going to end the recruitment for Simien because they would have had their 5. And Christian was like, I would not close the door on him. Like he will go to Notre Dame if they push for him. Not that he's an option. He has like a real option to go to Notre Dame if they push for him. He had the pulse of the kid, and he was absolutely right. He pulled him out of Louisiana, which is kind of shocking. They almost never lose 5-star players that are in state. Got one over on Texas A&M, which was nice because they lost Caden Henderson, Texas A&M. So, Jamie, Albert Simien, just a real quick talk on him as a football player.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible pickup. He's obviously a massive human being, like someone that, you see a lot of people like project him at guard. He certainly is athletic enough and long enough to play tackle. He's got like 36-inch arms. Like, he would have like some of the longest arms in the NFL in terms of like tackle. Like if you have that, like, the minimum is like whatever 33.5 or whatever that number is, and he like far exceeds that. And if you're going to project him inside to guard, obviously he's like far exceeds that. He's one of these guys who's similar to kind of Gerby Lambert in a lot of ways, where he's big and you can see he's huge, but he's going to get way bigger and just be able to carry that easily. I don't know if people remember, but like Gerby Lambert, I remember this. It was the talk of like when he committed, it was like, he's only 280. Do you think he's going to get to 300? I'm like, yeah, he's going to get there. Like, he's one of these guys. He's probably going to be 320 pretty easy, maybe 330. Like, who knows, right? Like he's that kind of big, right? And he's that kind of long. He just has that kind of frame. And I think in a lot of ways, just in terms of just like his overall like athleticism and just his size and his power and stuff too, reminds me a lot of Blake Fisher. I think Blake Fisher was a little bit more polished than him at the same time as like a tackle at that same point. But I don't think it's like that big of a gap between that. So how Fisher also played as a true freshman, like he was going to be the starting left tackle as a true freshman. Like that's not going to happen for Simien because of who they have there in front of them. And also too, I think him and Olu, if you look at both of them, they're probably not guys who are going to come in and day one start, but their ceiling are just so high. Like that's why they're 5 stars. Like these guys can be 1st round picks, right? Like you could put those guys beside each other, or they could be the bookend tackles or whatever. And that could be 2 1st round picks, right? That could be 2 All-Americans. Like that's the level of talent that they have. So, and you just don't see that often for them to get like they got Alt and Fisher in the same class, but no one was talking about Alt in that way at the moment when he committed, right? Because he was obviously smaller and it was like he had to gain a lot of weight and he hadn't even played offensive tackle up to that point. So it's a completely different situation. Then obviously turned out to be like just an incredible player and a top 5 pick. But when you're kind of looking at that, it could be very similar when you're having like a Fisher and Alt, maybe even better, right? But I always think that you look at the top Notre Dame at its peak during like the Brian Kelly era, when they had those great offensive lines, they had 1st round pick, 1 tackle, 1st round pick, the other tackle. That's what they're going to have. And 1st round pick at guard when you got like Quentin Nelson and all that in there too. And I think they're going to get to a point too, where it's, if these guys reach their ceilings, you're going to have a bunch of guys who are 1st and 2nd round picks. Yeah. Like that's just kind of what it is. And frankly too, like James Halter, he's going to be.
Did I say Jordan?
I thought you said James.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't sure. James. Yes. I apologize.
But yeah, I know, because Jordan is dad, former player, right? So
yeah.
But it is, he's a guy with like, he's a top 100 recruit and got a sky high ceiling and stuff too. And he could play tackle or guard. And he's a freak athlete for his size too. And they got Grayson McKeo in the other class. And I think too, like Tom is somebody there who is also like an incredible athlete. He's raw, but like, that's somebody that, down the line, a couple of years down the line, we could be talking about him as like a very, very high pick, right? That's why they took him, right? And they just they're just loaded with those kind of guys. And like, those aren't even the guys who are going to play this year. Those are just like future down the road, right? Like, because obviously they have Will Black and they're going to still have Will Black for multiple years. And we'll see what happens with Gerby Lambert. But like, if he's still there for multiple years, right? And, and Knapp, hopefully, he doesn't leave after this year and he's still for a couple years. Like they're in good shape. They're really good shape on the offensive line.
Well, I mean, especially when we'll get to this in a second, but like there's real buzz about Maddie Augustine now. Like that just continues, like that. It's been all spring and now it's going into the summer. I'm starting to feel like I'm going to almost be surprised if he's not the choice in the opener. It usually when a guy trends this way, it just continues to trend and there's nothing you can do to stop that wave of momentum that a player has. So I have a question about you. So like when Notre Dame I've said it a bunch of times and I apologize. There's a trash truck coming. So normally I would mute myself, but it's passing as I'm making this point here. When they build on this D-line class and they build on the O-line class, based off of what they did last year with their recruiting class, and you have the conversation with yourself, it's like, is Marcus Freeman really going to leave this? Is he really going to move on and pass up this roster that he is building? And it's one of the best rosters Notre Dame has had since the late 90s, or the late 80s. Early 90s, where it was just like they had the best roster in college football. And that's why they always won all those big games. My question to you is, and this question was posed to me, which is really annoying me. It's just like of all the times this thing's going to come by. It's going to come by right now. Yeah. This is what we get with live. And now you're getting out. My God. This question was posed to me by Caden McFarland on Twitter. And he asked me, he said, if you could guarantee Notre Dame wins the national championship in 2026 and Marcus Freeman leaves, would you take that, or would you take Marcus Freeman is guaranteed to coach at Notre Dame for the next 10 years and the number of titles is indefinite? You don't know that they're going to win, but he could win as many as he does in the next 10 years.
I think you take the 10 years.
Okay, why pass up the guarantee?
Well, because I do think that they're going to be set up to win multiple ones, and I think there's still like, of who would be the next guy, it's an unknown. And also, too, the thing is now, because it's not like it used to be, all these guys can leave. They can all just be like, well, part of the reason why I signed and part of the reason why I stayed was because of Marcus Freeman. Like, okay, I mean, it's a different situation, but if you think about Jimmy Clausen, he should not have gone pro like at that time. But no. Charlie Weiss was getting fired.
Right.
And he was like, well, it just kind of makes sense and whatever. Like, he should have came back. He could have lit it up with Michael Floyd and, everybody else there.
I mean, Golden Tate too. He could have come because he was just a junior.
Yeah. But I mean, Golden Tate, I think he should have left. Like, he was friggin' amazing. Like, it would have almost been stupid.
He won the Blitnikoff.
Yeah. It would almost have been stupid from comeback. But like Jimmy Clausen, it was like, yeah, you haven't won anything and you're good, but you're not that good yet. And you're also not seen as a first round pick yet. Like, it's not a guarantee. It wasn't like they were talking about him. They were talking about like he could be, but he didn't really play to that. And there's all these other like kind of red flaggy stuff with him, and he's not a good athlete and all this kind of stuff. He should have stayed another year because of it, but he just left because of that coach. And that was during the time when there wasn't a transfer portal. he might have, in that situation, if that happened today, Jimmy Clausen might have transferred to LSU or something or whatever, right? Like that's what could have happened, right? So, yeah. So I think it's one of these things where it could open up the door where all of a sudden, like, yeah, all these guys could stay and all these players they sign are there, but it's like, well,
I'm sorry, Mike got unplugged.
It's okay.
Does it mean Charlie Partridge is going to stay? Joe Rudolph? All these other assistant coaches are going to promote from within? If you promote from within, who is the head coach, right? Because there isn't a Marcus Freeman sitting there that is like, well, this guy would be the obvious choice or whatever. There's not even a Tommy Rees who would have been like the second choice or whatever, right? And if, let's just say, because there's going to be people, there's going to, if Marcus Freeman leaves, there will be people who are stumping for Tommy Rees, right? Tommy Rees does not have the same kind of personality that Marcus Freeman does, and I don't know that. I think he might actually do a great job if he was Notre Dame's head coach, but there's definitely other stuff there that you would be question whether or not could go well, like more questions than Freeman had at the time. And then he still got to go through that like process and learning process and all that kind of stuff too. And whether or not he can keep and retain people. What does it mean for Mike Martin's future? All these kind of things, everybody who works in the program, it could just totally disrupt. And is he going to bring any of the assistants with him to the NFL? Like, it's just one of these things that would be, as much as that. I mean, obviously you know, the ideal is they win a national championship and he stays for more.
Right.
But if you said, well, guaranteed 10 years and the chance to what he's doing is building.
Yeah.
And then I would say the guaranteed 10 years, because I think he's kind of proven that as long as he's here at Notre Dame and they're getting the resources, that I don't see why they wouldn't get the same kind of resources that they're getting now based on everything that he's done to proven their belief in him and the program, then they can compete for national championships every year. And you couldn't say that since Holtz. You couldn't say that. Even the years that Brian Kelly went undefeated, those were like surprise years. Like they weren't even supposed to be there. And frankly, when they got there, it showed that they weren't good enough, right? And I think, you know, there's a lot to be proven about, like, okay, you got to get it done and whatever. But it's like the same thing with like Oregon and Dan Lanning. Like Oregon they tried for so many years to find the right head coach and all that. And now they have this guy that obviously he's getting paid a ton of money and he's set up well there, but he's clearly not leaving. Maybe he would get an NFL offer that would make him want to leave or whatever, but he's not leaving for any other college program. It makes no sense for him to do so. So if you got that guy and you said like, well, Oregon, they're not going to get over the hump this year, but guess what? Lanning, you're going to get to keep him for another 10 years. He's probably going to win a national championship during that time at some point because of what he's done already to build up that program.
Yeah, I just think the way that he's building up the program and the way he's recruiting, like he could go on like a Pete Carroll run, or he could go on like a Dabo run or a Kirby Smart run. Like I think they could do that, and it's not guaranteed, you know, and you don't know, but like I would take that chance because you just can't pass it up. Like I just think it's like you said, who are you going to bring in that can come close to this and just like buy into what Notre Dame is the way that he has. I just don't know that you could do that. And so I would, if you told me he was definitely staying for 10 more years, like guaranteed, like first of all, I think if you could guarantee it, like Caden Henderson would be in Notre Dame's class, first of all. So there's part of that. And like, there'd be probably that, a lot of guys are going to fall into that boat. A lot of recruits are going to fall into that boat. And it's just sometimes when you have something like that special, you can't duplicate it. And it's just like no matter how hard you try, you just can't follow up. I mean, look, like Pete Carroll example. Look at USC since he left. It's just not anywhere close to the same that they've been. They've had some good teams, but it hasn't even been close. Sometimes you just get a special. I mean, even Dabo, like he lost it, right? Like he can't even. He couldn't even hang on to
I don't
it.
think it's ever coming back.
Yeah, like it's gone. And so like you have a special time, and you just got to capitalize on it. And I just think with Freeman, it's kind of like with LeBron leaving, to me, it's like the blonde years were whatever, because I knew and I had a good sense for the fact that like when Laker fans got a player like Kobe Bryant and he came through that career, like it's never getting better than that. Like it's never, that's never coming back. So whatever, man, whatever happens now is just kind of gravy. Like I feel like Notre Dame could be in the midst of an era like that, where it's like you have this person who gets it, who will do exactly what they need to do for the university, and you got to capitalize on it for as long as you can. And so I would take the 10 and the non-guarantee of a championship, because I just do think it is coming, and I think multiple could be coming if he stays around. But obviously, hopefully, look, in that scenario, the 10 years, that includes a possible title in 26. It's just not guaranteed. So interesting to think about and how important he is to the program and what he's built at Notre Dame.
I will say that one product of Marcus Freeman doing what he's done so far is he's upgraded the job and made it a way more attractive job than it was. Like if the whole thing with like, remember when Florida was open and Notre Dame was open, and Urban Meyer was like, you'd be a moron to not take Florida. Like it's a way better job, right? You have a way easier.
Well, Bob Davie, I think, told him that.
Yeah. And I'm sure more than Bob Davie told them that too.
Right.
Like it's just was, and also was reality. Like it was just
for sure
what it is. And I think that if Urban Meyer came to Notre Dame, he would have probably won a national championship. That everything would have been in shambles afterwards, and then Notre Dame would be disgraced. There'd be long stories in the Atlantic about how he sullied this Catholic institution, but they would have won a national championship. But if put it this way, if there's it was one of those things when people were saying like Florida, Penn State, I can't remember what other jobs were open this year, but like those jobs that were open this year, even LSU, right? Like was open when they were saying like, well, I mean, Marcus Freeman is at the top of like Pete Nakos. Okay, Pete Nakos, just stop putting it on the list, man. Like it makes no sense for him to go. It made no sense for him to go to those jobs. Like it would make sense if he went to an NFL job. It would make zero sense to go to those other jobs because frankly, even though LSU, you would say, okay, like you could make an argument for like that, like they can be very close to winning and like that. Notre Dame is closer to winning right now. And they're also set up and like they can recruit at the same level or better than LSU. Like they just beat LSU for Simien. They've beaten LSU for other guys too, right? Like that is something that is happening now that wasn't even fathomable before. Like, yeah, they get the Jerry Tillery or whatever like that, but like they weren't getting too many of those guys. Like you can name a whole bunch of other guys that Notre Dame offered that didn't even bother even visiting, that went to LSU or whatever, right? And became this amount of high picks. And now like they just couldn't land 5 stars before. They couldn't do it. And now that's possible, obviously, because of NIL and because of Freeman. And so I don't know like who would be the next best person or whatever, like, because it could be somebody that people don't even think that like that person would consider the job, because those aren't the kind of people you would have mentioned before. Mm-hmm. But now, I don't know, like somebody who's coaching another top tier program might leave that program for Notre Dame, and that was just never in the cards before. It wasn't even a thought. Yeah. Let alone like somebody who's like, I mean, obviously there'd be guys beating down the door who are like rising, star guys that would want to do it or whatever. I mean, if I'm keeping my eye on somebody in the future, it would be Chesney and UCLA's head coach, because one, I think he's won wherever he's gone, and that's always something, similar to kind of like Kurt Cignetti. He's won wherever he's gone. Still young, he's still pretty young. Also, I've just been impressed with everything that he's kind of done, like publicly, just how he kind of presents himself and how he runs his program. And UCLA was like dead for recruiting for basically the entire Chip Kelly era through, the next era as well. And I mean, even before that, like Mora had his moments or whatever, but it wasn't really like Chesney. I could actually see them, like, I don't know if they're going to compete financially with UCLA, but they're going to be a lot closer to them. And I wouldn't say they're going to beat USC this year. Then again, maybe they do, because maybe he's got this kind of magic. So we'll see.
Yeah. You mentioned rising stars. Speaking of rising stars, we're monitoring the Ian Premer buzz. It's out there. So that's something that's percolating. Mentioned Matty Augustine. He's looking good. Matt mentioned that DJ McKinney has been working in the slot, Jamie. This is the fourth person they've worked in the slot, I think. Dallas Golden in there. Jaden Sanders worked in there. Obviously Christian Gray, and now GJ McKinney. What do you make of that?
I think it's there. I mean, one, I think also it doesn't hurt to try him there, because I think it's just one of these things where you might as well get a look at somebody there. I think if you say like, Devin Witherspoon, who was obviously, top 5 pick for, played at Illinois for Aaron Henry at Illinois. And he's, for the Seahawks, was incredible in the Super Bowl this year. Well, he was their nickel this year. They didn't draft him to be their nickel.
Right.
Like they draft him to be like kind of like a shutdown corner. And he was incredible. And he never played nickel at Illinois. And he was like changing games because of how great he was at nickel. Right. So it is something too, where that is a super valuable position. And I think it's one of these things where you should try to get the 3 best guys on as your starters at all points. And then also too, you don't know about like injuries and all that kind of stuff too. So they should have more guys cross training at certain spots. Obviously, like Leonard Moore, you don't have to. Leonard Moore can play anywhere, and you're confident in that anyways. But like, what if Mark Zachary is the actual, like, he's the best field corner? It is very much possible that could be the case. Well, if that's the case, and he's better than McKinney and Christian Gray there, well, what if they think McKinney's better than Christian Gray, and then he should start. Like, he should be somebody who's on the field more than Christian Gray, or that Dallas Golden is whatever, right? Like, I think that's the beauty of having all of these talented guys there, or Jaden Sanders, frankly, or whoever. Like, we don't know where Kari Adams and all this kind of stuff, or Pouncey's going to, where he's going to be. But like, the whole point of having all this talent is that, like, you should find guys that kind of your best guys to have on the field as much as possible. And, there's also, you might feel like, hey, this guy's better suited for this type of team or that type of team and all that too. So I think there's a lot of like, I mean, I kind of just anticipated, just based off like McKinney's like experience and how he's played, that like, yeah, I think he'll probably start a field, and it'll be a battle between Gray and Golden at nickel. That's what I just assumed would happen. But I think, one, they shouldn't guarantee it. And there's also just the fact that I think of Rod Hurd and the Adon Schuler in that situation, where everyone was like, well, I mean, it's going to be Hurd and Watts. It's going to be a great tandem there at safety. And then like, well, Schuler earned the starting spot. And then it's like, well, no, Hurd can help. And then he played some nickel and he played some safety and he was very valuable. But he wasn't a starter, but he was very valuable. Right. So maybe that ends up being McKinney's role, right? Maybe that ends up being Gray's role. I don't know. Right. Like it could be, maybe that's Golden's role. So I think that's one of these things that the beauty of having all of that is like, you should have options there. Especially when you consider like Leonard Moore missed 2 games last year, right? Christian Gray missed 2 games last year. So prepare for all these situations, especially you don't want to put somebody there that like, well, McKinney, if McKinney's the second best nickel, well, if the first nickel's down, he should be the nickel, right? Like that's probably what should happen. If you have somebody who you think is like equal to him or close at field.
I do. I mean, obviously they brought in these guys. I mean, the thing is like they weren't free. You know, like I'd be pretty like surprised if Jaden Sanders and or McKinney didn't have like a major role for this team, just because, like I said, like they didn't come for free. You know, Notre Dame spent assets, you know, like financial assets to bring them in over other positions. So, you know, that's something to monitor. I'm glad that I get to actually see them in camp this year, and kind of see where that is, because I'm interested to kind of see how that all shakes out. You know, I mean, it's fairly intriguing. I mean, I did not think we would be in this position, but it's fine. Like you said, it's not a bad position to be in because they have so many options. I mean, you have Zachary, Golden, McKinney, Gray, right? McKinney and Gray have played thousands of snaps of major college football, you know, and, you know, Golden and Zachary have played far less, but they're also like young and talented. And oh, by the way, like Kari Adams is also kind of lurking, you know, and he's someone who, you know, came in very highly thought of out of high school. So that's going to be a very, very interesting situation to follow in camp. Matt also had an update about KVA and Drake Bowen. Physically, they're starting to look good. I'm glad that KVA is progressing very well. It's kind of one of those things like you kind of expect it, but please don't rush him back. Like we've seen guys come back too soon from ACLs and then they re-tear the ACL, and that's not what you want, right? But it's nice to hear that he's progressing well. Drake Bowen, he noted that he's doing like very heavy lifting on bench with a hip injury. That's obviously, you know, you love to see that. And I think he held cards to very close to his chest on the wide receivers, but it seems like the program's pretty excited about this group.
Yeah.
It just like the Mylan Graham situation. I will note we have not heard anything about Quincy Porter, and I only mention it because people are just kind of like, oh, he's going to come in and fix the boundary situation. We don't know where he's at with his rehab and all those things, and whether he's even on the field with the team and doing team stuff. So just people pump the brakes until there's actual updates from him. It's like, yeah, he's going to be full go in camp or whatever it is, because we don't know that that's true. So that's kind of what I'm at. Anything else with Matt's updates before we get going? I don't want to spill too much because it's premium information and there's a lot more detail on the site that he goes into. So check it out there. But just, you know, it's out there. People are interested. So we'll talk a little bit about it.
Yeah. And I mean, frankly, too, I think it's one of these things, too. Like this wasn't mentioned in Matt's update, but like in terms of like Charles Jugasaw, like in everything that's going on there, like everyone should just like, regardless of any positive updates, you wait until he starts practicing again. And then you hear like, oh, he's like, he did this. Like he went through a full practice.
Yes.
He went through a full practice. He looks like Charles Jugasaw again. He looks like the guy, whatever. Until you hear that, who cares about, hey, he's progressing? I mean, no, you care about like he's doing well. That's great. But in terms of like thinking about like your people plugging him into play, no. Like it's just don't get ahead of any of that until they're actually playing, because it's not even to the point of like where, Matt, mentioned with Bowen and KVA, like those guys are just light years before where Jugasaw is right now, right? So that's just, you got to kind of take it step by step with that stuff.
Yep. So that's where it is. So I think that's a good place for us to end it. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you like what you heard, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know whenever it is we are going live. We'll be back on Thursday with more Notre Dame football talk. Enjoyed everyone in the chat. Some good conversations there. It was a really good time. So enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the World Cup today. Enjoy the U.S. tomorrow in their round of 32 World Cup game. Good luck to Canada, Jamie, even though I'm still bitter and sad. All right. Have a good day, everyone. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Keep hitting and hustling.